So, what do you do? When was the last time someone asked you that question? How did the conversation go? In 2016, this was how most of my conversations started. At networking events, parties, talks, and any time I met someone new. It wasn't like I disliked my job. I actually really enjoyed being a project manager. But conversations about work felt incredibly lifeless, dissatisfying, and boring. People asked not because they cared, but because it was expected. When people ask you what you do, they're asking to see your professional work mask. And they don't ask you about the other masks that you own, the other colors, the other expressions, the masks that are in the closet, rotting away. When you wear the same mask again and again, it becomes easy to think that you are that mask. And it's harder to stray from expectations because we want to be accepted, so we wear the masks that help us fit in. I was bored. Bored of repeating my elevator pitch. Bored of having the same meaningless conversation on repeat. Bored of small talk. And frustrated with being stereotyped and with the lack of connection in my conversations. I was surrounded by people, and yet I felt disconnected and alone. Because I am not just my job. I am not where I live. We are not our labels. We are so much more than this. I knew I was craving a deep and meaningful conversation. And I'm sure you've all experienced what these feel like. Conversations where you get to talk about the stuff that matters, that has meaning in your life, and where you feel connected to the other person, like you're on the same wavelength, and that might be sharing interest, values, beliefs, or experiences. And it's more than this. Conversations are not just exchanges of thoughts and ideas, but an opportunity to transform, reshape, and engage in new trains of thought. As Theodore Zeldin rightly suggests, conversations don't just reshuffle the cards, they create new cards. When was the last time you had a conversation that changed the way you saw the world? A conversation where you learned something new about yourself or about the other person and their perspective on the world. Conversations can open new doors that you hadn't previously noticed. The world can seem fresh, brighter, wider. So what stops us from getting there? Online, we are globally connected. And yet, how connected do you feel to the people around you? Do we want to be more connected or better connected? It feels like we avoid talking to each other sometimes. Perhaps we don't know how to engage beyond small talk. Perhaps it's because of social norms that suggest we shouldn't talk to strangers. These can be so subconscious that we might think there'll be repercussions should we break them. Embarrassment, doubt, shame. These fears are often illusions, and there is far more to be gained by speaking to strangers. Even if you engage in meaningful conversations with 5 to 10 close friends and family, you are missing out on the other 7 billion plus people and their unique experiences of life. People represent opportunities, new ideas, new perspectives. They may have the answer to important questions, access to new people, more potential. All of this goes untapped when we choose not to speak to strangers. Most importantly, in these moments of connections with strangers, I discovered that I belong. I am not invisible. You are not invisible. We can belong anywhere and everywhere, not just with our friends and family, but with humanity. We're part of a larger family which is hardly met. So how can we meet each other? Having a meaningful conversation with a stranger is easier than you think. It's not rocket science, it's more of a craft. So how do you do it? Here are 5 tips for you to take away and put into practice. Number 1, be the lighthouse. Be the lighthouse means projecting an unwavering ray of light and maintaining a consistent emotional state such that others will be drawn towards you. Have you ever noticed how infectious, genuine excitement can be? How contagious a smile is, and how warm and special it feels to receive some eye contact. Likewise, if you're awkward and moody, how do you think the other person is going to respond to you? How we are affects how others will be with us. So ask yourself, how do I want to feel? How do I want the other person to feel? Set the intention and feel it first within yourself. Number 2, be curious. Becoming curious is the most important habit you will ever develop. It is a mindset that fuels exploration, and it is the cleanest fuel out there because it is not polluted with a specific agenda. And this is what allows conversations to be organic, unconstrained, free of assumptions and judgment. Becoming curious is a 2-step process. First, you notice, and then you wonder. And the wondering can lead to questions. Noticing the red patterned scarf. I love your scarf, and I'm wondering where it is that you got it from. Noticing the book someone is reading. Ah, Sapiens, awesome book, I've read it. What have you learnt? We can also notice the environment. Oh, this restaurant seems to have forgotten its ceilings. I can see the piping. Are we just cutting costs, or is this more modern art? The world is rich with interesting things to talk about. By noticing and wondering and having a genuine desire to learn about the world, this can be an invitation for others to join you in your exploration, and in doing so, share a moment of real connection. Number 3, shut up. How often is it, when we're listening, that we're actually just waiting for our moment to respond? You wouldn't run out of a conversation mid-sentence, would you, to go and plan your holiday or figure out what you're going to have for dinner? And yet, we do this all the time in our heads. When you're busy thinking about what you're going to say next, you will miss that moment. And on the other side, how frustrating is it to not be heard? We can see it in their eyes when people have left the conversation, can't we? Deep listening is holding the space for people to think. And sometimes that means silence. Many of us find silence so unbearable that we have to fill them immediately. Hold that silence a little longer and trust that beautiful things will come out of it. Most of us love to talk about stuff that matters, so offer this space and people may open themselves up to you. Number 4, ask great questions. Curiosity leads to wondering, and wondering to questions. But some questions are more effective at digging to the core of who we are. Every moment in time, whatever is happening within it, is an expression of the deeper patterns happening in the rest of our lives. How you do anything is how you do everything. When we notice these patterns, we can ask questions that help make connections in people's minds and trigger moments of discovery and understanding. Questions are the tools to burn the fire of curiosity. Sharpen your tools. Ask questions that help connect the dots. Number 5, share the real you. When the staff at Pret ask me how I am, I tell them exactly how I'm feeling in that moment. And it often goes along the lines of 7.5 out of 10, or caffeine deprived and needy, or super excited because I'm on the way to a course and I can't wait to learn. They're often surprised, but also curious. I've done 3 things. First, I've given them an offer for them to ask me about. Why 7.5 out of 10? I've broken the monotonous small talk script. And yes, I've been a bit weird. But they engage with it because it's playful, real, and human. If you want others to show their real self, then pulling out a mask that is more personal to who you are can invite them to share their thoughts and feelings and join you in a moment of authenticity. This is the power of reciprocity. I'll show you mine if you show me yours. Conversation is organic when you show up as your wholehearted, authentic self with no defenses or agenda. Guards are down. People are real. Trust is built and connection is made. There is never the right time to strike up a conversation with a stranger, by the way, but there is always too late. So give yourself permission to start an open-ended conversation with a stranger. Go first. Make that opening statement. Smile. Make someone's day. These conversations help us belong. They help us open new doors in our minds. They help us grow and to be better connected. And if you want to experience, feel, and be these things, there is now nothing stopping you from taking action, except maybe yourself. Thank you.